They promised jobs. They promised unity. They promised pride. They even promised peace. But what fascism delivered was blood, fear, and silence. In the ruins of the 1920s and 30s, millions of people didn't choose fascism because they were evil. They chose it because they were desperate, because democracy had failed them, because the truth hurt too much. This isn't just about Hitler. It's about how entire nations bought the illusion of strength, how rage was disguised as hope, and how that same mask is being worn again. This is Shadow Force, and this is the lie that built fascism. Fascism didn't rise because people wanted violence. It rose because they wanted healing. They wanted dignity after defeat, bread after hunger, order after chaos. Fascist leaders like Hitler, Mussolini, and others offered those things, but only on paper. They crafted emotional narratives. Germany will rise again. Italy for the Italians. One people, one nation, one destiny. These weren't just slogans. They were psychological life vests thrown to drowning people. In a collapsing economy, after a humiliating war, and amid street-level violence, fascism looked like the only ship not sinking.
Wait. You think you already know the truth about the Middle East? Think again. This isn't just a story of war, oil, and religion. It's a game of power, scripted by empires, funded by fear, and edited by silence. The US didn't just step in. It helped redraw borders, prop up dictators, and trigger revolutions. So, before you scroll away, ask yourself, what if everything you've been told was the cover story? Welcome to Shadow Force, where we don't just retell history, we expose the shadow behind it.
Why did people turn away from democracy? Because in the 1920s and early 1930s, it wasn't working. In Weimar Germany, political parties constantly collapsed. Inflation wiped out savings. Violence between communists and nationalists filled the streets. Corruption scandals spread like wildfire. People didn't just lose trust in politicians, they lost faith in the system. And democracy, with its debates, compromises, and slow reforms, felt weak, indecisive, vulnerable. Fascism didn't promise freedom. It promised clarity. One leader, one direction, one truth. That's what made it seductive. Fascism promised 5 things: jobs and prosperity. State-backed projects like highways and military factories made unemployment drop fast. But they were just tools for war. Law and order. Street violence was crushed, not through justice, but through secret police, arrests, and fear. National greatness. Lost wars were rebranded as betrayals. Fascists sold a fantasy of purity and destiny. Unity. No more class conflict. But unity came by crushing unions, silencing minorities, and banning opposition. Security. Real or imagined enemies, Jews, communists, foreigners, were blamed for every problem. These promises were never meant to be kept. They were meant to manipulate. And people believed them because democracy had failed to deliver anything better. The world was moving fast, and people were terrified. Machines were replacing workers. Cities were swallowing traditions. Globalism was creeping in. For many, it felt like the world they knew was dying. Fascism offered a return to something simpler: traditional roles, national pride, clear lines between right and wrong. Even though it was based on lies, it gave people something democracy didn't: a story they could believe in. Today, populist movements use the same method, offering nostalgia as policy and identity as destiny. The great lie of fascism thrived Because democracies failed to tell a better truth. Instead of meeting the needs of the poor, governments protected the rich. Instead of confronting extremism, they appeased it. Instead of explaining reality, they blurred it with slogans and half-measures. Worst of all, many democratic leaders believed fascism would burn itself out. But fascism didn't need to last forever. It only needed to last long enough to destroy democracy. One of fascism's most dangerous tools was emotional truth. Truth that felt right, even when it was wrong. People were told, Jews controlled the banks, communists planned to destroy society, foreigners were stealing jobs, the media was the enemy. And just like today, these lies were repeated until reality didn't matter anymore. Conspiracy became policy, fear became unity. Modern authoritarian regimes, from Hungary to Russia, use the exact same disinformation tactics. The methods have changed, the goals have not. Here's the truth. Fascism sells the illusion of strength, but democracy has to prove it. If democracies want to survive, they can't just wait for fascism to fail. They must deliver real economic fairness, not just GDP growth. Protect the vulnerable before someone else promises to. Teach truth before lies take over. Offer hope that isn't built on hate. Because fascism never truly dies. It waits in the cracks of disappointment and returns through the door of desperation. Fascism didn't rise because it was strong. It rose because people felt weak. It offered answers, pride, identity, and yes, lies. But those lies filled a silence that democracy had left behind. If we don't tell better stories, stories of justice, meaning, and truth, someone else will. And they might not stop at stories. This is Shadow Force. Subscribe for the war beneath the headlines, the battles between truth, fear, and power.
If you believe military history shaped our world, then you've already joined the force. Hit like, subscribe, and share the mission. Shadow Force continues, and the next chapter awaits.